Today I'm here at the Thermalito Afterbay, just downstream from the Oroville Dam and spillways. The whole idea of this Oroville Afterbay is a large, shallow body of water that's warmed up by the sun to be used by one of the first customers of the water from Oroville, rice farmers, just downstream from us. So let's check in with Rice Farmer TV, Matt Sligar, Sligar's Farm. It's mid-October and rice harvest season is in full swing. Check it out. My name's Juan Brown and you're watching the Blanco Lirio channel. It's a dust storm out here, Sligar.
Captain Juan Brown.
Here,
close the
yeah,
door for
get
you,
it
sir.
proper there.
Wow. Did I get it? No.
No.
Ready?
There you go.
Yeah, you just gotta slam them these days. You know, they don't make doors like they used to. How you doing?
Holy smokes, this is a real treat, man. I've never been in one of these before.
Well, dude, I'm sorry I can't make you a cup of tea. We just gotta keep cutting. Welcome aboard.
Keep grinding. Yeah, don't wait for me.
Yeah.
All right, we're aboard Matt Sligar's rice combine. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, rice harvester, harvest combine. Yeah, absolutely.
Matt Sligar, of course, from Rice Farming TV with a very special episode here where I get to come out here and ride along as it was on the in the combine here and get a bunch of questions answered about rice harvesting here in California. You know, you fly over these fields and you look at the rice combines operating hours on it and you think, man, that must be a boring job, but there is so much drama to this farming that Matt does such a great job of on his YouTube channel, Rice Farming TV. Matt, what's some of the drama that you've had this year so far?
Oh man, we've had rain delays, we've had unripe rice mid-harvest, we've had huge breakdowns with the harvest combines, we've had plenty of drama. Every day it's just something different, but we are making progress, we're doing good, and I gotta say, Captain JB, welcome aboard. It's good to have you here.
You get lonely out here by yourself?
So lonely. I'm gonna talk your ear off. Just ask away. JB, one thing I want to just say. Yeah. You know how they say friends can tell you about a person. Well, in this YouTube business experience, an audience tells you about a person, and you're an amazing guy because you have an amazing audience.
Yeah, it's taken a while to harvest that audience, so to speak, to get the right people on board that really enjoy this kind of production.
Well, all I know is you visited me last year right before harvest, and I got so many comments, and I've made good friends from your audience who said, "Yeah, I came from JB's channel, Blanco Lirio's channel," and man, they've been some of the best audience members. So just kudos to you and kudos to them. Big shout out to you guys.
Yeah, it's been fun to collaborate, as they say in the business here.
Collaborate.
And of course, the collaboration comes together because Matt here is one of the first customers for the entire Oroville Spillway project with the Thermalito Afterbay feeding his rice farmer. We'll talk a little bit about that water.
Can we take a little break here? My dad's calling me for some instructions.
Yeah, you better no goofing off, man.
Hello? Okay. Bye.
So back to the drama this year, we had a little bit of rain earlier, and the whole idea of rice harvesting is getting the correct humidity for the rice, correct?
Yes, the right moisture of the rice. The moisture will tell us how the rice is ripe. And to understand that best, it's good to understand how the rice kernel is formed, right? It starts off in the reproductive phase as kind of like this milky-like substance. And so that would have like 100% moisture, right? Then it slowly hardens into a rice kernel like we know at the grocery store. And when it's like that, that probably has 15% moisture. It's really hard. So moisture tells us how ripe the rice is. We want to...
And that process takes a couple of months?
Yeah,
from planting?
Once it starts in the reproductive phase, because what we're eating, the rice, what we eat, is actually the seed, right? We could store that rice properly and plant it next year and grow another crop of rice, or we could eat it. So, sorry, making turns here.
Yeah, we got some tricky maneuver in here. So if you harvest rice that is too dry, it'll get all busted up and become broken rice, huh?
Right.
In the processing?
Exactly. If you're cutting at too low of a moisture, or the rice is too hard, or is actually brittle, right? And believe it or not, all this action up here and all the action through the machine of separating is quite intense. So if the rice is brittle, if it's too dry, then that can break into smaller pieces, and we can't sell that as a premium #1 grade rice kernel, because nobody wants to go to the supermarket, open a bag of rice, and have these broken little kernels there. So we won't get paid as well on that rice, because it'll go to animal feed or some sort of flour product that's highly produced, you know.
And if it's too moist, you got to spend money at the dryer to get it dried?
Right. If it's too moist, if it has too high of a moisture, if it's too soft, if it's chalky and mushy, then that'll cost us quite a bit of money to dry it down to the proper storage moisture, that the grocery store wants it at. And actually, if it's too high of a moisture, the dryer just won't even take it, because they could have 50 other farmers who are cutting at the optimal harvest moisture, and then you're slowing down their production there, or their drying process.
So you got to get in line, as it were.
You got to get in line, you got to wait. So we can get shut down, or it'll just be too expensive. Over here, cutting on the levee.
Oh yeah, getting
some toolies right in there on the reel, getting wrapped up. And if that gets too bad, I'm gonna have to pop down there and cut them off, because I don't want a bundle of toolies to pop off my reel. That thing that's spinning there like a cone.
Oh man.
So.
But it separates the toolies right away, I suppose.
Oh yeah, it cuts the toolies right off, and unfortunately, because they're right on the edge of that reel there, they're getting wrapped around it.
Wrapped around the axle, as they say.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get processed up here into the hopper. It gets discarded.
No. You're just gonna get a little pieces of straw back there in the grain tank with the cut rice, but mostly, you know, it's just collecting rice. What's happening is straw is getting spit out the back of the combine, and you can kind of see the straw rows here. That's just cutting rice and leaving behind straw, collecting the rice.
So tell us a bit about your combine here. I can tell you right now that harvesting rice is a hot and dusty and itchy job. These rice hulls just crawl down the back of your neck and instantly turn you into a ball of itching. But in here, you are in air-conditioned, climate-controlled comfort, it looks like.
Yeah, it's absolutely comfortable in here. It takes a lot of attention though, because I want to make sure my rice is feeding in. I'm listening to the machine, make sure it's separating well, and I can tell that by the sound of how it's processing. But to get to the itchiness of the rice, it's so true. It's absolutely itchy. And the problem is, it would be comfortable in here, but I am still itchy. The reason why is because in the morning I do my daily maintenance on the machine. I'm greasing it, I'm checking the engine oil, the hydraulic oil, checking the water, the coolant, just cleaning the rice chaff and dust off the combine, because if a belt is getting hot, that could heat up the rice straw and cause a fire. So I am getting really dirty in the morning, first thing in the morning.
Just pre-flighting your equipment.
Pre-flighting my equipment and getting dirty, and then now for the rest of the day, I sit in here for 9 hours, as you say, with a little bit of an itch down my back and just trying to stay cool. But as long as I stay cool and my pores don't open because of the heat, I can stay pretty comfortable.
You can manage that itching.
Yes.
And speaking of driving the combine, we're just using visual flight rules. You're just visually following the line here. You're not using any fancy GPS or anything.
No GPS. Newer combines do have GPS with auto steer on it. This one does not. And right now I'm just kind of guiding by the levee. I'm cutting right next to the levee. The levees here, these separate our fields into smaller sections, so it's helpful and easier to manage water. But I got to cut the rice right up against it, and I don't want to jam my header into it, so I'm taking care there, and just making sure the rice is feeding in nicely into my combine.
And as far as operation of the machine goes, you can tell you're harvesting correctly by the sound of the engine and what, the RPM and speed, right?
Yes, I have a monitor over here. It's telling me my miles per hour. I have a screen there that is telling me whether or not I'm kicking out too much rice onto the ground. And I also have an engine load percentage monitor, which is telling me basically how hard the machine is working. If I'm going too fast and I'm ingesting too much straw, it has that much more of a difficult time to separate rice from straw. And so if I have a lot of product through there, just the harder it's going to work. And it'll tell me by that engine load percentage. Once I get up to about 75% engine load, I want to kind of back off and just give it a little bit more time to process the rice and straw. If I get it up to 100%, I'm running the risk of basically just clogging the machine, jamming it with too much. Just, you know, I mean, I've got the separator spinning at 650 RPMs in here. It's spinning, just knocking rice off the straw. If that gets too much straw in there, it'll stop, and that's not good. I'll burn belts. I'll clog up the entire machine. I'll have to open the panels off the side. I'll have to manually clean rice and straw out of there, put a new belt on, and then start it, and hopefully shoot the rest of the straw out. So I'm paying close attention to my engine load. Don't want to overload the machine, basically.
Right. Is this your combine?
Yeah, this is my dad's combine. Yeah, this is our operations combine. I rent it from him this is actually my rice field. So I rent it from him at market price, unfortunately. But,
and a modest interest rate.
Yeah.
The family rate.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so harvesting, you're only getting in one harvest per season, or per year, correct?
That is correct. We're in we're in the second week of October now, so we're running the risk of these fall rains, and once it hits November, December, the temperature drops dramatically. The days are so much shorter. It's just too cold to grow another crop of rice. So yes, we're basically just using the winter to give the fields a break, to help the straw that's remaining here decompose, so there's less vegetation in the springtime, so we can get in here, work the ground, and put a new crop of rice in. So
speaking of decomposing, folks in the years past used to just cuss out the rice farmers for burning season, and it just created about a mile visibility and smoke here in the valley, and that smoke had nowhere to go because it's trapped in the valley. But nowadays, that's not so much the case anymore.
No, it's not the case. A lot of people don't burn at all. You are allowed to burn 20% of your total planted acreage. So as you were mentioning, you could go out whenever you wanted. I don't know, 20 years ago or so, you could go out whenever you wanted and just light the field on fire and walk away. But now there's a lot of oversight from the Butte County Air Quality Control Board, so they are the ones allowing and giving permission to burn, and usually it's not a full field. You got to divide your field into smaller sections. They only allow a certain quota per day. The wind has to be right, has to be blowing away from towns and cities. So there's a lot of oversight, a lot of regulation, and a lot of just restrictions on when and how much you can burn to just create a better atmosphere.
And that's just to burn this chaff that we see left behind here.
That's to burn this chaff, but what it ultimately does for us, aside from that, is it helps a lot with disease control. If we've got fungus out here, if we've got pests out here, then bugs out here, then that will help us control. And that's how we pick our 20%. So the 20%, rather than saying, oh man, we wish we could burn it all, we do understand the public's perception of it. We do use it as a tool for pest management, and we'll strategically pick that 20% of allotted acreage where we do have problem areas.
And so if you're not burning, how are you getting rid of the chaff? Just decomposition?
Well, decomposition. First, what we'll do is, you see out there, we got long pieces of straw, we got stubble out there. We'll take a huge mower or a chopper, and he will chop every single piece, cover every single piece of ground here and chop the straw into smaller pieces. Then we'll go over it with a disc and break the ground and sort of incorporate the straw into the soil, expose the soil, and then we will flood the field with about 2 inches of water, hope for some rains, of course, when we're done with harvest, to keep that level of water up. And that water, that mixed in straw into the soil, will help decompose the straw over the course of the winter, over 3-4 months over the winter. Another effect of all this, though, is it creates an absolutely natural habitat for the migratory birds.
Yes,
and
they love it.
And there's, of course, rice straw, bugs, fallen rice seed that we didn't pick up from harvest, and they've got a perfect place to rest as they migrate south. They got a perfect place to eat, and it's actually a beautiful sight when you see millions of ducks and geese just sitting out here, and if you drive by, they'll take flight and just make this thunderous sound. It's absolutely beautiful.
Just acquiring naturally through rainfall. You re-dam up your rice checks, I guess, the levees, and capture rain. You're not using Oroville water at that point.
We are allotted. Yes, we are using some Oroville water at that point. We are allotted a certain amount of water in the springtime, and we save a certain amount of that allotment for the wintertime, knowing that we need to decompose this rice straw. So already, like, as soon as we harvest this rice in front of me, this field is already getting prepped for the next season's crop, right? It's that starts the new cycle. So in order to have a good crop, we need to get rid of this rice straw. In order to do that, we need to decompose the rice straw. That ding right there was telling me that my grain tank back here is 70% full.
Oh,
so
70%.
I'm nearly full.
We got the other wagon following us in close formation behind, getting ready to take this load.
That's right.
But because you got another line there, we're gonna have to peel off to load him up.
Yeah, normally I would just unload right over the levee, extend my
road, Sligar.
Wait. This is gonna be good. Okay, what happened is, you see all that rice on top of my draper here? That wasn't feeding very well into my combine, right? So what happened is I had my draper get plugged up with rice. I'm gonna have to clean all that off and loosen these conveyor belts. They're the drapers, and I get the rice out from underneath me. And I'll let you see all that happening right now. I'm just gonna throttle down the machine, turn the separator off because we're not cutting anything, and we're gonna hop out.
Okay.
And I'm gonna clean those toolies off my reel as well while I'm down there as well. I've got all my tools. Can you start cutting those toolies off, please? Come on over here, JB. First thing I gotta do is
Getting more itchy, huh?
get more itchy. It's just part of the job.
Yeah.
This right here on this side got plugged up with rice. Got underneath it and just stopped it from spinning, so it wasn't feeding.
Okay, gotcha.
So I gotta get all this rice out of the way before I can.
And it was obvious because all this rice just started piling up and wasn't getting processed.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I think think it might be over here. You see all this?
Oh yeah, up underneath there.
Meanwhile, Tristan's over there.
He's cutting the toolies off the spool reel there so it doesn't pop this apart.
A little midday maintenance.
Got his toolie cutter tool. Now what sort of safety do you got in this machine to make sure this flipping thing don't take off on you when you're in this rather compromised position?
I got it, the parking brake on, I got the machine off, the separator off.
Yeah.
This header, these knife blades here, that's what's cutting the rice. This won't start spinning unless the separator's on. And of course I have this off, so yeah, you just gotta trust it, you know.
And these
you gotta trust the process.
Are these knife blades here good for a whole season, or you gotta sharpen them?
No, they're good for a whole season. But after the season, we definitely gotta pop them off and replace them with brand new ones.
Yep.
They get pretty dull.
You don't bother sharpening them at that point.
Oh no, you just pop them off and put new ones on. Yeah, problem's over here, JB.
You found it, huh?
Yeah, I think
you're able to get it under there by hand, or you got to pop that up?
No, I can get under there by hand or take a look.
Oh yeah, look at all that.
Under here, JB.
Yeah, I can see all that. There you go. Give that a rip and a tug.
That's... Damn.
Were you satisfied with the blade height, or did you have the wrong blade height that caused that?
I don't know.
Or is Forrest Gump, it just happens, huh?
It just happens.
Yep.
Once one thing gets stuck in there, it starts helping
everything else get jammed up in there. Well, I hope you found this first part of this very special Oroville update on rice farming in California as fun and fascinating as I did, hanging out in the combine with Matt Sligar of Sligar Farms. In part 2 of this special series, we'll cover in detail how the water is recycled in rice farming here in California. We'll talk a bit about the yields that Matt is getting from his farms. And we'll also talk a bit about farm economics and how you get through a slim year. We'll also discuss the age-old question of the difference between white rice and brown rice. And Matt has a very interesting story of how he got interested in farming and came back to work the family farm and the family that he now raises on Sligar's farm near Oroville, California. So hit like and subscribe, and definitely check out Matt's Rice Farming TV channel in the link below. See you here. So with only, what's that?
I got rice dust in my eyes, so.
Good. You're looking the part now.
Yeah. Oh, am my face all dirty?
No, we need to
Can you get it off?
Makeup, get some more dirt on this farmer here.